heading out for another lesson this morning. Want to do, a little vlog as we're heading out. Still got a little ways to go till we get there. And I do travel. You can hit me up on www.thegarminguru.com or inbox me on Facebook. Message me on YouTube, and I'll usually send you my email, which is just thegarminguru@gmail.com. There's a lot of ways to contact me there. I prefer those methods as opposed to calling my number, because Lord, I get so many calls. But one of the things that I see on a lot of the channels, is what are your settings? What are your settings? I see this a lot. And so I figured this was a great time to have a conversation about that. I tell everybody this, and I've told it at seminars, I tell it everywhere I go. One of the things you must find is what works for you. Everyone's eyes are different. I'm colorblind. My eyes are not like your eyes. But what I have come up with is a fantastic set of baseline settings. And what I mean by baseline settings is these are great starting points that will get you on the water, get you going. Each unit is different. Each set of eyes are different. What you like is different than what I like. And when I go to a lesson, that's what we work through, is finding that finding that group of settings, that group of color palettes that you like the best and that are the best for your eyes and the situations and the conditions you fish and the species you fish. So when we do that, I write them all down. I send them to you in a little digital file. That way you can always have them and access them. Now, what that means is when you finally do get on the water and start going for yourself, you will learn, what gain does, what color gain does, what color limit does. And then you can begin to experiment yourself and find what works for you. Now, if it gets out of whack, hey, I've even got mine so far out of whack that I had to go back to my baseline settings and start over, because I'm not afraid to experiment and try, and I believe that is the key to finding that perfect picture. So I have these set of baseline settings, and I will tell you here in just a minute. And when it gets down to it, if I get a little far off, or you get a little far off, you go back to that baseline setting, start over, and then start working toward what you're looking at. And when you do that, it allows you to adjust, and it allows you to have the confidence to adjust your settings. Because as we know, time on the water is what's going to get you experience. I mean, yesterday in the video, I was using Caribbean for bass fishing. Not what I always use, but for some reason, the light conditions outside, when I tried to use blue, it was okay. But when I tried to use amber, it just didn't work yesterday. It was a bright, sunshiny day after about 5 days of rain. I don't know if my eyes had got used to the darker conditions, or the water vapor in the air was causing the brightness. As you know, after it rains, it seems to me be brighter. I don't know if your eyes or the water vapors and the humidity in the air magnifying the sunshine. I don't know that. I'm not a scientist. But it just didn't seem to work on amber like it normally. So I went to my color, which is that blue, which is the nighttime color palette. Didn't work. Tried yellow, and I didn't like it. So I said, today's a great day to really, and I've experimented with Caribbean a lot. And I've told you, sometimes you lose a little bit of detail. And man, was I able to pick up those fish wonderful around those cypress trees. And when you're picking up those fish around those cypress trees, you can dial it in, and you seem to catch a really nice fish on an A-rig around those cypress trees. But I was able to see that fish, and when I saw him, I made a few casts to him until I got it perfect. And when I got it perfect, bam, he smoked it. people say, what do you go? That's what I go for. Yeah, I caught some other fish, but I went for him or her, and I caught her. So that is why when I tell you that we changed the style of fishing, the whole trip was for that one fish. Doesn't happen every trip, but when you go and target those fish and target specific fish, and I was targeting that larger fish, I went after it and caught it. Now that fish was in 12 foot of water. Every other fish I caught was in 7 to 8. That fish was in 12 foot of water on the bottom of a cypress tree, tucked in tight to it, that way down deep. I mean, that is what I was going for. I was shooting for that larger fish, but I had to choose the color palette that fit my eyes that day. I didn't really adjust gain. I didn't adjust color gain or any of that, but I had to walk through those different color palettes to find the one that was appropriate for that day. So here I am, even though I have certain color palettes that I love, they didn't work that day. For some reason, the way the lighting was, the where cypress trees and what I was doing, I needed to try something new and not be afraid to fail. You can't fail. You can't be afraid to fail when you're making when you're out there on the water, and not being afraid to fail is what's also going to get you. Whoa, lost my sunglass case. What not being afraid to fail is what's also going to get you to learn those new color palettes, also to learn to try different settings and things like that to get your best and most optimal setup for the day. Yes, it can change from day to day to day, but as a whole, I have those standards. But sometimes those standards get me locked into a place that I don't want to try. Yesterday, I was forced to try something new, and man, did I find something that I really, really like, because I've used Caribbean before, but never, ever, ever have I used it when I'm out there fishing for bass, and specifically A-rig fishing. I was doing A-rig fishing, and some guy called yesterday, do you really need that chandelier? He was just being a troll, and in usual troll fashion, he said his comment, and he won't comment back, of course. No, I don't need that A-rig. I probably could have caught it with another method, but it was the method that I thought was best for this time of year and what I like to do. It's me. If you want to fish that with a blue and white umper bumper, by God, fish it with a blue and white umper bumper. Nobody cares what you're fishing with as long as you're having fun and enjoying it. But that's how I dial those settings in. So let me go through the settings real quick. I use 68 gain. I usually set my bottom 8 to 10 foot deeper than the actual depth. What that means is if I'm in 17 foot of water, I'll put it on about 25. 15 foot of water, 23 to 25. So I add about 8 to 10 foot. That's a whole different reason I do that. We could talk about that in another video. Forward distance, 40 to 60 foot. I will use 80, but I tend to stay in that 40 to 60. Now, that is very dependent on the situations you fish. And the waters you fish. If you're open water, OHIV, Lake Fork, and those things like that, you may want to fish out there that 80 to 100 foot. I'm in an area where I'm fishing oxbow lakes, a lot of cypress trees. All of my targets are closer. You have to be a little bit more accurate with your casting and things like that. So I'm in that 40 to 60 foot range. But usually around 60 when I'm bass fishing, and of course 30 when I'm crappie fishing. So that's that. Color gain, I'm always in that. I've experimented with 100, but I can't, my settled area for what I like is about 80. And that gives me great target separation. It gives me everything that I really want. Color limit 0. That is garbage. Get it out of there. It's gone. Ghost tree reject off. TVG low. Like that because it helps clear up that top corner of the screen. I have videos on that. Noise reject, I try to use off or low. If I can get away with off, I will use it for the day. Sometimes off may be good for low light, but as the sun gets up, the waves start, the wind starts to blow a little bit, the sun's peering through there, you may have to filter a little bit, and I try to use low. I very rarely go below low. Every now and then I may creep to medium, but very, very rarely. It's usually low. So those are my baseline settings, you know, and that's what I like for forward mode. But guys, thanks for watching. Just a little conversation about settings and how I find them, and also about being open-minded. It's very important when you're live scoping to be open-minded. I know I hear some people talk about active target, you know, oh, you can just set it and forget it. I had active target. I had to set it and forget it. It lasted about 2 weeks. Got sold to the guy down the street who, who incidentally he's since sold his, and he's a Garmin man now, because sometimes you need more adjustments than two. And I like having the adjustability, because if you don't like the adjustability, just turn everything on auto and let it do its thing. It's essentially the same thing. So when somebody cries, oh, you can just set it, forget it, and get on the water. Well, if you want that, turn it on auto, get out on the water, let it do its thing. If you don't want that, you want to have that extreme adjustability and that able to put your finger on every little thing, like me, I like the Garmin. You can also just turn it on auto, and you got essentially the same thing. And I promise you, Garmin is better than active target. I've had it in my hand. I've used it. We're not even going to put Mega Live in this comment, because it is not, they don't even deserve to be mentioned in this video. We ought to beep that out. Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Tell me what you think down in the comments below. Talk to me about this. Let's have a good conversation about this. Let's go. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And you know, as always, since pretty much day one, I think I took it away for a couple of days, but pretty much day one, we ring the bell.